Hello ladies and gents, it's EZScape. Super Mario Odyssey has been the fastest growing speed game of all time with 1,000 total speedrunners part of its community in only a few months. Which is no surprise to me because the game offers so many unique controls and movement options, as well as huge open world maps that contain endless opportunities for optimization. But in these few short months, speedrunners have already been taking this game to an entirely other level. Whether it be clipping through a wall into loading zones, making complete fools of the level bosses with precise strats, or performing these seemingly impossible jumps in order to shave a few seconds off each run, let's see just how crazy this game can really get. The first trick on this list is a method of skipping the first power moon in the Cascade Kingdom. You usually need to take control of a nearby chain chomp to destroy these rocks, which contains the first power moon. After doing so, you grab the moon, the bridge drops, and you're able to continue through the rest of the level. The thing is, taking over the chain chomp and smashing the rock, as well as the cutscenes for obtaining the moon, dropping the bridge, and discovering the Odyssey, take up a lot of time, so being able to skip them would be very useful in a speedrun. By doing a hat jump and wall jump diving around the invisible barrier by the waterfall, you can bypass collecting the first moon completely and go straight to the boss. The thing about this skip is that it's only possible to do in the version 1.0.0 of the game. This means that the only way to be able to perform it is to have a physical copy of the game, because if you download it from the store, it will come with the most recent patch. Also, even if you have the physical copy but are playing on the latest version of the game, the only way to go back to version 1.0 is to factory reset your Nintendo Switch. So it's clear that there are some severe limitations on being able to perform this skip, which is why the trick has actually been banned from the Super Mario Odyssey speedrunning community, and why it will only get the number 10 spot on this list. The next couple skips on this list are probably tricks you've already seen or heard of if you're familiar with Super Mario Odyssey speedrunning, but I have to go over them before we get to the really cool stuff. The first trick is called the Moon Cave skip. Normally before getting to the chapel on the moon, you have to go through a lengthy auto-scroller cave section. Even if you were to go through the cave at a quick pace, it would take you 4 to 5 minutes to clear, but speedrunners have a better idea. If you go around behind the entrance to the cave, you'll find a sphinx. If you ground pound jump into a hat bounce and then wall jump off each wall once, you'll be able to land right next to the exit of the cave, skipping it entirely. It honestly almost seems like this skip was made possible by the developers for speedrunning purposes, since it skips an auto-scroller, which is every speedrunner's least favorite kind of level, but regardless, it's still a really cool skip which is used in every single category. If you thought the Moon Cave skip was impressive, just wait till you see this one. After you beat the game with 500 moons, you gain access to a new world called the Darker Side of the Moon. This level is one of the most difficult developer-made levels in the history of Mario games, and we're going to skip all of it. When you first arrive on the darker side of the moon, if you look to your left, you can actually see the final area, which contains the final multi-moon in the game. But how exactly is Mario going to get all the way over there from all the way over here, other than going through the cave? Before you head into the cave, you'll find some frogs hanging out near the entrance. If you take control of one of the frogs, jump in the air and exit the frog while high up, and then land on the other frog's head as it jumps up and capture it shortly after, the frog will be swimming in air. While swimming in air, you can swim all the way over to the unreachable platform I was talking about earlier. Next, you can capture a frog, jump up this huge building, and obtain the multi-moon without ever having to go through the cave. The boss fights in Super Mario Odyssey are fun and can sometimes be decently difficult, but once you learn the bosses as you repeatedly fight them, you start learning the obvious weaknesses and exploit them. But with Bowser, who is arguably one of, if not the most difficult boss in the game, has weaknesses that really aren't too obvious. But as speedrunners have continued to experiment with the game, they have found some pretty interesting strategies. The first important thing that speedrunners do is that when they grab Bowser's hat, they make sure they are close enough to him to instantly start punching, otherwise he'll jump away and you'll have to chase him around. If the hat doesn't land close to Bowser, you can throw Cappy at it and hold him there, then release it once you get close. You can use this strategy during any Bowser fight to save time over chasing him around, but there are other strategies that make even this one redundant. By standing by Bowser's hat as he releases it, you can backflip in the air and hit it with Cappy. Hitting Bowser's hat with Cappy launches it slightly in the air, so Mario will catch it while backflipping. This saves even more time than the other strategy, but it is pretty difficult to do. Speedrunners will even purposely take damage during the third phase so that they will have invincibility during their backflip, preventing the decoy hats from hitting Mario, which would mess up the timing. The original method of throwing Cappy at Bowser's hat, holding him there until you get close to Bowser, and releasing isn't completely useless with this other strategy though, because during the first phase of the second Bowser fight, you have to use it because you don't have enough time to instantly hit his hat.
Why I did go for it? No!
The clip you just saw there was Samurai Man losing a world record speedrun to a trick called 2D shortcut, or what some people refer to as 2D skip, and the ending Bowser sequence at the end of the game. The reason why I call it 2D shortcut and not skip is because it really doesn't skip anything, it's just a faster way to progress through the level, but to each their own. The reason I'm including it in this list isn't necessarily because it's the most difficult trick in the speedrun, but because of how risky it is. You have to jump from this ledge, while avoiding bonking on the ceiling to land on the top platform. The trick itself saves only 2 seconds, yet if you miss it up, it will cost you over 20 seconds. But more importantly, it will most likely end any chance of getting a personal best, and definitely any world record pace run. 2-player mode has been a pretty underrepresented category for the start of Super Mario Odyssey speedrunning, but recently the Any% category has gotten some exposure by Shaden, the current Any% world record holder as of the date of this video, and his co-op partner Ikatrix. In 2-player mode, one player controls Mario and the other controls Cappy, which has a few advantages over 1-player mode. Some of these advantages are that the player that controls Cappy has full range control of where the Cap can go. The Cap has fast movement and can run in front of Mario to capture targets earlier than Mario would be able to. This can also be used for some crazy warping capabilities. One of the warps is used as a result of the Cascade Kingdom moon skip that it featured at the number 10 spot. Because you skip that power moon, you obviously need to make up an additional moon to be able to move on to the next kingdom. In Shaden and Ikatrix's route, they have Mario obtain a power moon located underneath a waterfall, while Cappy stays near the Odyssey. After Mario grabs a moon, Cappy activates the Odyssey and saves all the time it would take to run all the way back to the Odyssey. I know that I said the Cascade Kingdom moonskip was banned earlier in the video, but that's only for the main categories. One of the other benefits that Cappy provides is that jumps performed with Cappy are a lot higher than ones Mario can normally perform other than the triple jump, as well as making it possible to hat jump out of a roll. By combining the large jumps and the huge amount of free range you get with Cappy in the Snow Kingdom, it's possible to reach the Snow Kingdom cliff top checkpoint flag to activate it. By doing this, it means that speedrunners can warp back to it to get a quick power moon that is really close to the Odyssey. Cappy has some other unique properties with this range in that it's possible to extend his horizontal and vertical range from Mario, which means warping via capturing is possible to do from even further distances. Here's a clip which demonstrates just how far you can extend this range.
I messed up. It's fine though. Should still be saving time.
So in this clip, the horizontal range is extended by trapping Cappy behind a support beam and a spark line, preventing him from moving back to Mario. Cappy's vertical range has a unique property in that it only comes in effect when Mario touches the ground, which is why it works when Mario is flying in the air towards Captain Toad. The thing is, once Mario touches the ground, Cappy's vertical distance is set and he'll be forced to Mario. But for some reason you can mash jump with Cappy and you can stay in place even once Mario touches the ground. Then after Mario grabs a power moon, the vertical range will update, causing the camera to focus on Cappy. Because the camera focuses on Cappy, he can now grab the spark line and warp all the way to it. The reason why the camera focusing on Cappy is important is because it's impossible to capture anything that is off screen. One additional thing that's possible to do is frame perfect jumps with Cappy and quicksand in the Sand Kingdom to keep momentum, which is a pretty handy speed tech. The brutal fights in Super Mario Odyssey really aren't too challenging. Well, that is up until you reach the Mecha Brutal fight later in the game, where you need to scale the machine to be able to ground pound in each Brutal's pod, all while avoiding the traps it sets or getting stepped on. The first strat that speedrunners do is capture a Pokio, which is a small bird that drops from the machine. Next, they use the bird to shoot 2 bombs dropped by the machine back at it to destroy the armor on one leg. The machine will fall over and you can now take out one of the Brutals. This method is pretty fast and a great strategy for beginners, but if you're an expert speedrunner, you won't even bother with a bird, and instead will use a series of hat jumps to scale up the side of the Mecha Brutal. Birdless strats are extremely difficult to pull off because they require quick inputs and it is really easy to bonk at any part during it. And if you fall off, getting back up won't be easy. Once you get to the top of the Mecha Brutal, the speedrun strategies are pretty straightforward. After you hit one of the Brutals out of their pods, the Mecha Brutal will push you backwards twice. You'll have to perform a hat throw jump and dive in order to get back on top of it. If you bonk the first time, it doesn't matter because you'll get pushed back anyways, and by then you should be close enough to the Mecha Brutal to land without bonking. These strategies save a lot of time in the Mecha Brutal fights in any category. Alright guys, now that we're to the top 3, the tricks are about to get pretty insane. The first trick is called infinite nut jumping. In order to begin the trick, you need to gain access to a nut. For some reason, to get the trick to work, you have to place the nut on the ground of a pool of water. Next, you will perform a jump, preferably a ground pound jump for some additional height, and then throw the nut. Next, you will perform a dive by pressing ZL with Y. Make sure you hold Y so that when you dive into the nut, you pick it back up. Repeat this process by pressing Y to throw the nut, and then ZL plus Y while keeping Y held during the dive to pick the nut back up to continually gain height. While this technique is really interesting and may appear useful, there aren't a whole lot of uses for it since most areas in the game are pretty easily accessible. However, there is a potential use for this trick in a speedrun category extension called minimum captures. The whole objective of this category is to get through the game while performing the least amount of captures possible. Currently every speedrunner for this game runs the 15 capture route, but by using the infinite nut jump technique, it's possible to do a 14 capture run. The capture that you skip is one of the spark lines in Bowser's Kingdom. So far there are 0 runs for this route due to the difficulty of the infinite nut jump, but with a lot of practice I'm sure someone will eventually perfect the technique and be the first person to do a 14 capture speedrun. The next trick on this list is scooter clipping. Scooter clipping is pretty much exactly what you think it is, and it's a method of clipping through walls or solid objects with the use of the scooter. The scooter can only be found in New Donk City, so the usefulness of this trick is limited to only this kingdom in the game. The first instance of using this trick in a run is clipping into the box that contains a moon at the end of a small RC car track. The RC car has arguably difficult controls and can sometimes be difficult to drive into the box, but with this trick you don't have to worry about any of that. The way to perform this clip is by using the scooter's hidden motion controls. If you're not sure what I mean by hidden controls, I'm talking about the certain controls that the game doesn't openly tell you about. One of the hidden controls for the scooter is that if you tilt the controller to the side, the scooter will also tilt to the side. With good timing you can clip into the box and grab the moon. There are a few other skips that are possible to be performed with the scooter, but at the moment none of them have any uses. Some of the interesting ones are being able to go out of bounds by riding along the railings of buildings. If you angle yourself just right, you may be able to clip through certain parts. Using this trick, the speedrunner Circle found a way to clip through the ground to then jump his way to the loading zone for the sewers. Unfortunately, this loading zone isn't active until after you find all the musicians in New Donk City, which means you can't gain access early, and the trick won't be able to save time in anything other than something like a minimum captures world peace speedrun. Alright guys, and for the last advanced tech on this list is a trick called the roll cancel clip. The roll cancel clip is a trick that derives from a base trick called instant roll cancel. And judging by this trick's name, you can probably assume that it instantly cancels a roll, but let's talk about how it's performed and why it's useful. Instant roll cancel is performed by ground pounding with ZL. While performing the ground pound, the ZL button needs to remain held. Once Mario hits the bottom of his ground pound, you press Y to initiate a roll. And then 1 to 2 frames after the Y input, you input X, and then 1 to 2 frames later, input A. If inputted correctly, Mario should be instantly moving at his fastest speed right after, which is useful in areas that don't have enough room to build up that speed otherwise. But that's not all this trick is useful for. If you line up Mario in front of certain walls or objects and perform the instant roll cancel, it's actually possible to clip right through them, resulting in what the Super Mario Odyssey speedrunning community calls a roll cancel clip. This trick is not only one of the most difficult tricks in the game due to how precise the inputs are required to perform it are, but is also one of the most useful. The first major use of this trick is in the Sand Kingdom, and it saves time in just about every category. By clipping through a wall behind a Sphinx, you're able to clip through another wall to obtain a power moon. After this, you can jump into the loading zone that's behind the Sphinx and access the treasure rune which has another power moon. This trick saves time by both bypassing talking to the Sphinx and having Mario get sucked downwards by quicksand to get to the other power moon. The next clip is also in the Sand Kingdom, which allows you to clip into the inverted pyramid early, which saves time in the World Peace, Darker Side, all missions, and 100% categories. Another clip is in the Snow Kingdom, which if you clip through this wall, you can access the Bound Bowl early, which is useful in the same categories as the inverted pyramid clip. Some other interesting ones include skipping doors, which requires outfits in both the Metro and Lake Kingdoms, and also a method of clipping out of bounds in Metro to skip the entire sewer section underneath the city. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like because it's the best way to show support. Huge shoutouts to Samurai One Man or Samurai Man for helping me with this list as well as the video for the majority of these tricks. If you guys enjoyed seeing top level Super Mario Odyssey speedrunning, then be sure to check out his Twitch as he's a world record contender for almost all of the main categories, and some other categories. Also thanks to Ikatrix and Zinpars for helping me out with some additional footage, as well as the members in the Super Mario Odyssey Discord. Anyways guys, that's all I have to say, so as always, I hope you have a beautiful life.